All right, and here we are back in the saddle for part 2 of lesson 12, organizing content with Flexbox. Okay, wonders of the world. We're looking at level 7. Brody is making a web page of the ancient and new wonders of the world. He would like the user to be able to test their knowledge by looking at the gallery of images to guess what each wonder is, and then scroll down to the bottom of the page to check the answers and see if they were right. Can you help him make sure the order of the images match the answers? Okay, under do this, put all of the images inside a container. We can do that. So div space class, all right, class, and in parentheses we'll just call this container, I suppose, and then we will end that div tag down here. All right, and let's actually jump over to the style sheet and make sure there's not already a dot container. Okay, good. Okay. All right, so put all the images inside of a container. Style the container's layout so that the layout of the images matches the order of the answers. An example of what layout should look like is provided to the right. Okay. All right, let's see if we can do that. And we'll need to go to the style sheet. We are on the style sheet. And let's see where it wants us to put this. Is there anywhere? Image container style. Style the container's layout so the layout of the images matches the order of the answers. Okay. All right, let's create our container, and it's going to be dot container space curly braces, and then let's start putting in the rules. So we need to have a display rule. Let's go ahead and set that to flex. And then just a moment, I've got a student coming in. Alright, sorry about that. I had a student who forgot their device, left it in here. Alright, so we did the display flex. Alright. Woo, made those images ginormous, right? And then we're going to flex direction. And let's do column reverse, semicolon. Next rule, flex wrap. And we're going to go with wrap. Now we made them little again. Let's go down to the next line. We're going to justify the content. And we're going to choose space around. And then final rule, align content. And we're going to space around again. And that should match what we see up here in the display area. Awesome. All right. So that finishes that one out, I do believe. Yep. Let's finish. And then you know what to do here. You answer these questions in the text box, hit submit. All right, let's go ahead and jump into FlexFlow. FlexFlow. FlexFlow is shorthand for the flex direction and flex wrap properties, which together define the flex container setup. The default value is FlexFlow, row no wrap, okay, which establishes the direction as row and the wrap as no wrap. All right. Interesting. See if you can use this new shorthand property to match the image on the right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things we're matching. Okay. The first container has been styled for you with FlexFlow column wrap. So I guess everything's going to be on the style sheet as long as they've got containers for each of these, and they do. So let's go ahead and get started. Container 1. Let's see. Center, space around. I think the first one's already done. Looks like. All right, so we're starting with container 2. All right, yeah, I see. All right, so for container 2, line 36, looks like we're going to be adding a flex flow, as it talked about up here. So flex flow, and then we want to choose row reverse wrap. So row reverse, and then you hit space and then wrap. Okay. And then down here, we're going to justify the content. And we're going to choose space between, because there is space between these. And then to choose how they are going to look vertically, we need to align content. And then with align content, we'll center it. And then we should see, well, why didn't that work? Container 2, flex flow, row reverse wrap, justify content. Oh, I forgot to put a semicolon here. Ha 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 ha. The ever important, ever crucial semicolon. Okay. Sometimes you forget it. Sometimes I forget it. And then container 3, we want it, okay, 2 columns stacked in order. We can do that. So for container 3, we're looking for flex flow again, colon, and this time we're going to choose column wrap. And that is not in the option, so we'll do column wrap, semicolon. And then line 58 here, horizontal rule, we're going to align content, colon, and then we want flex start. Get it over to the left-hand side. And then last thing is to do flex start for justify content. And don't forget those important semicolons. All right, let's do container 4. And for container 4, we want them all across the, let's see. Uh-oh. Am I doing these out of order? Let's see. Container 4 should have been row, no wrap. Oh, I just did container 3. I see. Okay, we're now on container 4. Okay, I got so confused. All right. Container 4, you are going to be flex flow, row, no wrap. Right like that. And then it needs to be across the top, okay, and all squished together with space on the side. So I'm thinking we'd put justify content, and we want it to be centered, and then vertically we want to align the items for a flex start. And that gets that one. All right, let's do container 5. All right, for container 5, which is the yellow one, here and here. All right, we've got reverse order going down, big space between. All right, so for flow direction, let's do a column reverse wrap. Flex, flow, column reverse, but we want it to wrap. And then line 96, still thinking about the yellow down here. So we've got the reverse going. Now we need it to be spaced around. So align content, space around, semicolon. Let's see if that fixes it. Okay, and then we need space below it. And to do that, we're going to justify center. Content center. Oop, and that should get it. It does. All right, container 6, our last one. And for this one, we want flex flow. Whoop, let's click in the right spot. Flex flow. And our flex flow for this one is going to be row reverse wrap. So row reverse wrap, just like so. Whoop, semicolon. And then for our horizontal look, we want it to be spaced evenly, because look at it right there. Okay. And we'll choose justify content. And for our justified content, we want space evenly. We're using that one again. I don't know why it's not on that drop down. It really should be. And then finally, we're going to align the content. And we want space between this time. All right, let's make sure that looks right. It does. Let's finish. And that is going to put us onto 8B, gap spacing. The gap property explicitly controls the space between flex items. It applies that spacing only between items, not the outer edges. Okay. The behavior could be thought of as minimum space if the space is bigger somehow. If you had justify content space between, for example, then the gap will only take effect if that space would end up smaller. Interesting. And then down here, grid gap accepts 1 or 2 values. Goodness gracious. They're really trying to teach us a lot today, aren't they? Holy moly. All right. So, all right. I think we're going to be doing all of this work on the style sheet again. And a single value sets both grid row gap and column gap by the same value. See the spacing between the rows and columns of the items in the first purple container to the right. Okay. When the 2 values are used, the first sets the grid row gap and the second sets the column gap. Okay. All right, so see the different spacing between the rows and columns of the items in the second till container. All right, looking at that. Looks way different from the purple container. Okay. All right. We're going to assign the gap property to each container in the CSS or the cascading style sheet. We're already there to match the spacing of the items in the image to the right. Give the first container the grid gap property and define both the row and the column spacing to be 50px. Okay, so it's a new rule called grid gap colon, and then it's said to use 50 pixels. Okay, so that gets the first one. All right, and then the second one we give 10 pixels. All right, so let's go down here to the second container rule set where it says add code below. And on this one it says up here, give the second container 10 pixels and 50 pixels. So let's do that. So it's going to be 10px space 50px semicolon. That sets that one up. Yep, that's correct. All right, so let's just go through and add the code. So grid gap, not gritty gap. We're not hitting the gritty, y'all. Grid gap. And then what do they want for this one? Third container, we're in the third container. It's going to be 50 and then 10. Okay. And then the fourth container, we're going to use grid row gap. And it's asking for 60px. Okay, and then container 5, it's going to be column gap. Goodness, column gap. And they want 60px again. I'm curious, what's the difference? Huh. Okay. So gaps between them, no gaps between them. Or wait, no, okay. So column gap, row gap. Grid row gap, the rows, and then grid column gap down here. Okay. Cool. All right, container 6, last container. We're using grid gap again. And this time we want it 25px and 70px. And let's just check it against this. Yep, yep. Okay, container 1, container 2, container 3, container 4, container 5, container 6. They're all correct. Good. Finish. Let's move on to the next one. And C, child selectors. All right, the child selector selects all elements that are the children of a specified element. Click here for a visual. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. So parent would be the div class parent. And the children are all below it. Okay, we can figure this out. That kind of makes sense. To style child elements, you'll use the greater than character in the selector of the rule like this. So div, okay. All right, so this one's going to be interesting for sure. We have a div class parent here, and then here are all the children. Okay, do this. Let's see how it works. Div class with parent, attribute, HTML. Notice how paragraphs 1, 2, and 4 direct children within the container. Yes, we did look at that. Notice how paragraph 3, that's here, is inside the container but in its own container. This makes paragraph 3 a descendant of the parent container but not a direct child. Goodness. Okay, notice how paragraphs 5 and 6 are not in a container at all. I do see that. Okay, so in the CSS file, find the rule for paragraph tags that are children of the parent container in the CSS file. The rule looks like dot parent, that's this right here, background color yellow. All right. In the preview window, notice how the paragraphs that are the children of the parent container are getting a yellow background color. I do see that. And under your turn, it says add a rule to the CSS file that uses the child selector to style the images within the container. Okay. So let's add some rules here. Or wait, child selector. Oh, okay. So that would be container 1, right? Hang on, just a second. Pausing just to think about it. Okay, I see it now. So we're not adding any code to the parent. We're adding code to the child. So we're going to do dot container -1 space like this. And we're controlling the images, or the yeah. Okay, goodness. All right. Line 37. Okay, so it wanted us to change the width to 75 pixels. And then we're going to do a border style that's solid. And then the last rule it wanted for this was to set a margin of 30px. 30px, like that. Okay. And then we're down here, so we're going to create some room to code. Add code below for the extra challenge to style the first two images within the div container with the child selector. So to do that, it's going to be that dot container again, but this time special and down one border color. And let's go with yellow. And then next, border radius. And we'll go with 25 BX. There we go. And so you can see how that's only affecting these two right here, because those are the two that are in that container one. Whew. All right, let's move on to the next one. And that puts us on to 8D Descendant Selectors. Holy majoli. All right, if you did the previous challenge level, you learned what an HTML child is and a child selector does. If you did not do the previous challenge, consider completing it and then coming back. Okay. The ability to select a child element in a parent is awesome, but what if you could select all of the same elements within a parent, even if it is not a direct child? Easy. We use the Descendant Selector. All right, div p, font family, serif. So to use the Descendant Selector, you will format the selector of the rule like this. So a little bit different. Okay, and it's our turn. So let's go to the CSS file, and let's look at what we need to do. The notes, okay, add a rule right here. So dot parent. Or wait, no, hang on. Descent selector to style all the images within the container. Is that not the parent already here? Hold on just a second. Let's think about it. All right, I think maybe dot parent space img, and then let's do let's see, what rule should we add here? Style all the images within the container. Okay, what should we add here? Let's see what happens if we do background color here. That didn't do anything that I can tell. Maybe border style. And then let's see what happens if we do solid. Okay. So I think that, whoop.
Soccer players.
Pardon the announcement.
Dismissed to change. Soccer players dismissed to change. Good luck, boys.
So we get rid of that. Do we have anything going on? I don't know. Border style. Let's see if dashed does anything. I'm so confused. Okay, let's go down here, add code below. Something I do know how to do. All right, dot container one img semicolon, not semicolon, goodness, curly braces. And then let's follow the directions up there. It wants a width of 100 px. Okay, and it wants a yellow border color. But before we do that, we need a border style. Solid. And then we can do a border color. Yellow. Oh, border color. No wonder it wasn't working. Border color. And then we need a margin of 5 pixels. There we go. And then extra challenge. Okay, add code below to style the first 2 images within the div container of the child selector. Okay. Dot child dash 1 space this guy image space curly braces, and we'll do width. We'll just change it a little bit. And then we'll have a border radius. Let's try 15 px. And then, see, it's not doing anything. Maybe that has to do with what I was confused about up at the top. Border color, red. See, that didn't do anything. What am I missing? This one's really tough, man. What did I mess up? Image parent. And we made the child down here. I'm finishing that one. Image gallery cards. Let's see if we can knock out this one real fast. Image gallery cards. All right, there are many times when we want to create some sort of image gallery with information for each image underneath. This is easier than it sounds. Okay, when we use div, containers, flex, and some CSS styles we already know. Let's see how. All right, do this. In the HTML file, add a div with gallery. Where do I do that? Okay. Okay, div, whoops, gotta start this. Div, space, class, gallery, in that, and then goodness, this is going to take some doing. Ramen card. Okay, so div, class, ramen card, and that, whoop, and then let's see, we need a content, add one more child div. Okay, div, class, and this one is just going to be called content. Okay. Add a child div ramen content class around each set of H3 tags. Okay, so where should we put the end dev class content? Okay, we might have to come back to this. We definitely will. This one's going to require a lot. So I'm going to hit pause up here, and I will be back for the rest of this and finish it out. All right, we are back. So let's hop back into this. I'm going to toggle this out of the way because there's a lot here and a lot to accomplish. So let's get our div class stuff out here like it asked us to in the instructions. So yeah, okay. So we're doing the in the HTML file part. We're adding a div with a gallery class all around all content after the main page title. So, whew, right? Whew, whew. So essentially, div class gallery, trying to remember what we've done so far. Div class ramen card. All right, and then we have our image for the ramen. We did our div class content. Okay. And then right down here, after this paragraph, we need to end div. Whoop, you gotta type it in right. And we may need to put 2 actually, just to make sure. And then we're going to div class ramen card again. Control C from there. Ramen card miso. Okay. I think, all right, ramen card, and then we need another content. Where is right above that H3, and then we'll need to end. Well, let's just copy this. End div twice again. There we go, and then under show you, we need another div class ramen card. So we'll copy this, put that there. We need another class content right there. Or wait, no, Control Z, right above. Sorry, right here. And then we're gonna end those. And I think, yeah, glass gallery. Okay. And then down here for the Shio ramen, we need another div class ramen card for the image. Create some space, and then we need the div class content again here, and then we'll end. And then we will grab ramen card again here, and then another content. So lots of copying and pasting there, and then we need to end div. Oh, we've got some pink code, and I'm not sure why. I may have put or copied something incorrectly. Let's see, content. Okay, we need rules. We need rules, y'all. We need rules. All right, for the gallery rule set, let's do display, flex. Let's flex wrap it. Wrap. Let's justify center. And then margin of 20 pixels. Okay. And then for the ramen cards, we're going to have a big rule set, like lots. So width, 325px. And it's looking funky right now, so we'll see what we can do. Display, flex. Flex direction. Actually, I think I might need another end div down here. Okay, that I think. Okay, flex direction, column. Now we're getting somewhere. You saw that big change. Align items center. Text align center. Border. Let's go with 2px solid black. And then the final rule, margin of 2px. Semicolon. And then for the content, we're going to do a padding of 10px. For the ramen card, P, font size 17px. Ramen card H3, margin bottom of 10px. And then ramen card image width 100%. There we go. That was the big. That one was. That one just did a lot of heavy lifting. All right, so let's check it. All right, they should all look like that, right? Yeah, very good. So, woo. And no peak code back on index. Yeah, no peak code. All right, that ends part 2. Finally, my goodness. All right, that was a really tough lesson. Go.org, that was really, really tough. Holy moly. All right, we had to do a lot there. I'm glad we did it. Man, let's finish. Make sure that saves. Whew, that's it for me. That was part 2.